So now part 2 here. We're all shards of God, right? I like to put it as one of my friends, Curtis Joseph, says, we're all scales on the body of the one, but we are still the one. Only because when I die, everything dies with me. But then you may say, well, how is that possible? I'm observing you die, and life goes on, right? Yeah, from your perspective, your worldview, right? You have your own individuality. But when you die, everything else goes with you, including me. From your perspective, but not from mine. This is why we have such a separation here between what is actually consciousness. Your world is your world. You see the world for how you are. And if you see it for how you are, you will position yourself in the position of God and not the position of something in the world that you become a victim of. Later, bro. Bye-bye. So, you know, look, the heart is basically connected to time. Your heart rate frequency determines your experience, right? The animalistic nature is at the bottom of the coccyx area. Why is it important to breathe? You take a deep diaphragmatic breath. You oxygenate all the way down to the coccyx area. This may even stimulate your fucking cock to get hard. A lot of people have erectile dysfunction. They look for pills outside of them when in actuality, this is why yoga exists. You put yourself in certain positions, in certain, you put your body under certain conditions. It forces you to breathe a certain way. Even when you take a cold shower, you will fucking experience a deep diaphragmatic breath. When you do yoga, or let's say if you're in a squatted position and you sit there and take a deep breath, you're literally oxygenating even the little pockets that are in the sides of the back of your lower back. You feel the oxygen into those lower extremities. Why is this important? If you're in an airplane and you're running out of oxygen, don't you feel like you're going to pass out? Right? So we have different brains. That's why when you meditate, you focus on certain areas, you're actually, believe it or not, bringing life force, which is the air you're breathing, the little prana, that good ass prana, baby. You bring it into certain areas when you're focusing on that specific area of your body. And matter of fact, these are actually every organ you have a bunch of cells and 2 major fluids. The cells are sentient. When you put focus and attention to certain areas of your body, you're actually exciting these cells. It's no different than if you're laying there in meditation, because we're all meditating at the moment, and God somehow happens to think of you, which is basically you, okay? And this is how people even keep your spirit alive. Like, let's say if you die, they'll say, come on, we got to do this. We got to keep the spirit alive of that person, right? The person is the environment, people, and places that it experienced. And those people keep your spirit alive in your memory, right? Because that's your spirit. Your environment, people, places, and things is your spirit. Your soul is your individual experience, your individuality. Let's say the individual spirit is your soul, right? The source of the actual projection of the spiritual space you're in. Because that's why they say everything's spiritual, because your space is spiritual. Everything's spiritual. Your spirit is everything outside of you. If I happen to level up in this game of life and become a millionaire, then that's my new spiritual space, right? Is there anything wrong with that? No. Let's say, for example, you hear in the Bible that for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven is like a camel going through the eye of a needle. What does that actually even mean, man? So that means that you can't be rich, because if not, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven? That's a bunch of baloney. And the thing is that everything here is information. And what is wealth to one person may not be wealth to another. The same way evil may be one thing to one person, but not to another. See, wealth could be health. That's why they say wealth is health. They can say, oh man, that person is a wealth of information, right? So wealth to a person may be an abundance amount of information, right? But here's the crazy thing though. When you die, you don't take none of that with you. You don't take your information with you, and that could have been your wealth. You could have been a middle class person But you had a wealth of information, and if you're very, very attached to that, oh, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven. See, because the same way I made the example in the previous video, how I love my son to death, but if I had amnesia, would I feel like that for him tomorrow? No. It's only based on memory, right? So that's what keeps us fucked up here, is just the memory part of things, right? We can have, listen, all this information can be stored somewhere. We call that the Akashic records, right? But the moment you house it in your body and you take it as yours, then this is what the problem is. This is not coming from a loving space. See, that's why they say love, you let it go, and if it's meant to be, it comes back, right? But love is a detaching, letting go process. But love for yourself, when you're in a relationship that doesn't serve you, you break up with that person. What do you say? I deaded that person. But you deaded it because it no longer served you. But now it requires a process of changing yourself, or you'll just attract the same partner in a different body. It's the same thing with life, same thing with everything that we are doing here. Information. Money has no value, but it's information, right? Money is information. It's a consciousness. So suppose it like now, I become a millionaire. See, I'm not a millionaire per se, but I still am. And I also have access to $1 million. I have very, very wealthy friends. Let's say I decided to become a millionaire. Okay? And there's different ways to look at this. If you're doing something with such a passion, right? Something that your heart's desire because you really got to know yourself, right? And you came and you started to do something where, like I mentioned, the love frequency when I'm gardening, right? Where if I'm in the garden, I lose perception of time, and I know I'm doing it with passion because I even forget to eat, which means my ego, my body is offline. I'm there. I'm in the spirit of nature. They say get into the spirit of Christmas. If you're Grinch, they say, come on, Grinch, get into the spirit of Christmas. But why? Those are man-made seasons that you have to get into the spirit of, right? But it's not in certain people to get into certain seasons. That's why certain people say, I don't like Christmas, but I love Halloween. I don't like Halloween, but I love Thanksgiving. I don't love Thanksgiving, but I love Easter, right? You have everything's preferential. One thing you can't get away from are the 4 seasons of nature, like spring, summer, fall, and winter. Your body acclimates to those environments, whether you know it or not. They're getting into the spirit of those things, but only because you are the environment overall. In spring, you may notice your hormone levels go up. You may have a certain sense of happiness when you start to see things blooming. You may see winter and it maybe feel cozy and whatnot, or you may even develop a little bit more body fat than you do in the summertime. This is your body acclimating to the environment, and it should be in tune with nature. In fact, in the winter, you shouldn't even really feel that cold, because your pineal gland, your thyroid gland, all these glands are working properly. So you should acclimate to these environments accordingly. Do you ever heard some people say, man, I can't be out in the sun that long. Oh, it's so hot, I can't be out that long. And they want to go into an air-conditioned room. They're not in tune with nature, right? They're separate from their environment. And that environment is God to some extent. When you connect with other people, that's God. When people trigger you, those are blessings in disguise. You're observing the polarities of yourself. These are things that you basically are looking that trigger you because you hid them in the closet, but only because you deem society that said that's unacceptable. But you're observing everything in real time, everything about you. Your insides you're observing them in real time outside of you. And here's the funny part. You wouldn't think to hurt your neighbor if you realize that these people are actually you. That these people are there because they're there for you, the same way you are there for them. But the more authentic you are, because we mold ourselves to acclimate to the environment. You may act one way with your mom, one way with your friends, but if it's you truly, then these people will express themselves truly. And you know what that does? That's going to open up the universe for you to experience some true abundance in life. Because if you're the type that hides who the real you are, and you're ashamed of yourself and whatnot, you'll attract the same people. That's how you know this is your world. You design your world every day that you wake up. And this could be you aware of your environment or self-awareness, self-actualization. When you have that self-actualization and you're truly authentic, you'll experience more authentic people because that's what they'll do. Because you expressed your authentic self. See, people energetically read each other and they don't realize that they're doing that. You energetically read people. We do this in business and marketing. You do this sometimes when you talk to people. Sometimes you may see how they react and you may fall back or fall forward, whatever you want to do. We do this when we meet a chick. We may say certain things. What are we observing? How they react. What do they say next? Is there a chemistry? Are they in harmony with you? Why do some men have a hard time talking to girls? Right? They're disconnected from their feminine aspect of themselves. If this ain't the fucking baddest, most fucking coolest cup in the planet, I don't know what the fuck is, man. Fucking Darth Vader cup, man. I'm so happy I picked this shit up. And I told you, I'm gonna make it a thing. I have a collection of cups. The energy I'm in, I'm gonna drink and pretty much show the cups. And I'm gonna make that a thing in my videos. I'm just gonna be basically the way I feel would be the cups I express. I may bring out the ET cup one day, or maybe the Captain America cup, or Spider-Man, Batman, whatever it may be. I gotta get a dark side cup though. I gotta get a Superman cup too. Excuse me. Here's some good ass wine too, by the way. So let me talk about the child. You know how some people say they are God, right? Do you know what God is like? Do you know what God is? Do you know what is God? Who is God, right? They call him Jesus, but the letter J didn't exist when he was born, right? So there's a certain, like you see everybody, like I just mentioned before, we have the ability to connect to certain people because everybody has a frequency. Just like everybody has a phone number. If we're able to tap into a certain coordinate of our body, know the exact frequency, we can talk to somebody in real time. You get what I'm saying? We call this lost ancient technology when we say that we built the pyramids. We changed our way of doing things. We just designed technology to make our life easier. But what that does is it made us stupider. But it gives you the illusion to actually think that you're evolving when you have the latest phone, the latest car, the latest technologies and whatnot. They think that they make you believe that this is the way you are evolving, and this is not evolving. This is not evolving. You're going backwards, right? The ancient technology of us building pyramids happened with our body, which we stopped using. So now all of a sudden we forget how it works, right? This is where I was getting at with the example with the African kids before. Let's say a pair, like these kids were playing in Africa with this stick and rocks, right? And then all of a sudden, they were having the time of their life, but they were more connected to their environment to some extent, right? And then all of a sudden, they have kids, and the kids are born into technology and into the beauties of like the new equipment to play hockey with, right? And then all of a sudden, their other kids now have like these fucking electrical skates now. And you get what I'm saying? And then let's say, for example, the grandparent that originally played with the stick and rocks is explaining to the grandson or grandchild what they used to experience. They can't even fathom that. They can't fathom that. Like, how the fuck did you go through life like this? Because some people have a phone and they're like, yo, how the fuck do you live without your phone? We did it at one point. I remember the beeper stages, man, where I remembered all these phone numbers, and all of a sudden, now I gotta depend on my phone to get somebody's phone number because I forgot my own family member's phone number. You get what I'm saying? But back then, I remember I had like, I'm not lying, I had like 35 phone numbers memorized, about 40 phone numbers. I don't have those phone numbers memorized, so now we depend on the technology, right? That's kind of like what's happening here. So now, Christ consciousness, I believe we were more God-like. But we separated the more we got into technology. And even when you hear man created in the image of God, we separated from being God-like to just being man. And we designed technology to make our life more simple and easier, but everything's in the interest of a profit. And then now we basically stopped being man to be more robotic. Because even like men can't even talk to women now. They got to go through fucking like apps and scroll right and left. I mean, I just imagine, right? I mean, then a guy now would say, yo, how do you talk to a girl? Well, how would you know when you're not even doing it? You got to fucking use your apps and scroll through, certain shit to it's ass backwards. You know what I'm saying? It's ass backwards. But here's the thing though. All you're observing is humanity going through a big ego trip. You notice how whenever you're trying to reach God mode or you're trying to communicate with God to some extent, it's hard to focus. You got the mind chatter. You've got, like, even to get out of body, it's hard. You got to put the ego to sleep, which is the body. You got to put the body to sleep. You got to try to sneak out the room so you to get out of body. You know what I'm saying? It's like the ego, or let's say if something happens in real time, somebody cuts you off or somebody says something to you, you see how hard it is to fucking hold yourself because you got to get one over, And then they say, but you're the bigger person when you keep quiet. Why is that? Because the bigger person is bigger than the actual ego. The ego is very small. So when you see the people that are running the world, which is only like a few hundred, maybe 100, if anything, 100 families, it's a very small amount. That's the reflection of your ego. That's what that is. And we're pointing at it. But meanwhile, how do you operate in your day-to-day life? You're experiencing the shadow aspects of yourself now in real time. And if you can't control or manage your ego and find the harmony with the things outside of you, then you're disconnected from God, nature. All these people that say, I'm in tune with nature, bitch, you are not in tune with nature. You don't know what the fuck that is. You don't know about the acid alkaline chain. You don't know about the microbiome, macro and micro wheel of that shit. Black and white. Seeing literally everything as one. You could see the corruption in things only because you see the corruption in yourself first. This is how I discovered how I see everything as one. Even black people just being on the feminine side of energy. I'm looking at Jesse Lee Peterson, right? This guy talks about the white man is better than the black man and how the black man is basically fucking themselves up because of the ways they just do things. But does he fail to realize that this is the feminine aspect of humanity, is the black people? Jesse Lee Peterson sides with the white person. He may have a conducive chemistry because that's just like the woman submitting to the man. Because Jesse Lee Peterson is the feminine side of energy. He's a black guy submitting to the men. But here's the thing though. It doesn't come down to what. You see, everybody looks at it where it's like submitting and you see these words and all of a sudden you put yourself in a hierarchy or a pecking order and whatnot. It's not like that. It's not like that. In actuality, man came out of woman, right? Out of darkness comes the light. In totality, man came out of woman, right? So black people were there. White people came out of black people, right? This is why you see all these like black people online. They're saying that they created the white man. There's truth to that. There's truth to that. But then again, we're in a patriarchal system where the patriarchal system is man over woman, woman over the kids, but Christ in man. See, the whole thing is the completion, right? Is finding that masculine energy in the melanated people, right? And that's not finding it through equality by trying to be equal to the white man. It's basically just playing your role here. You are children of the sun. The white people are children of the moon. But you need each other for you to have a chemistry. That's just the same way where you got MGTOW, men go their own way and whatnot. It's just fucking nerds that can't talk to girls. That's all it is. And women who've had horrible fucking households or have a lot of trauma, which is basically because of technology, we are disconnected from each other. They want to look at men and say they can do without men. But that's, in an actuality, it's an abomination. But then again, even having kids is also something that's detrimental. It's a beautiful thing, but a detriment at the same time. If you don't know yourself, right, you're bringing in more batteries into the planet to entertain this system. That's all you're doing, the matrix. If you're in poverty, you'll just pass down the same programs to these children. And people in poverty are in their animalistic state. This is why they have so many kids. Rich people really don't have that many kids. But you got all these people in poverty, they have like 10 kids. And it's their animalistic nature. That's all it is. And they can't even they have to work. And these people are hard workers. They work really hard to basically provide for these children. That's why they say, oh, these are the hardest workers, are like the minority group. Right? And I'm talking about like blue collar workers. The white collar workers are busy, but they're more on the, see, we got, and even the color blue and white, I'm gonna make a separate video on that. But even like white collar workers, they're basically more in the luxurious side of things, the light side of things. But even, not to say that that's the best position, because there's rich people who want to kill themselves, while there's poor people who may seem to be living the life of their dreams. They love life, live to be 100 years old. You see this all the time. But it's the balance. Once you become aware, what do you do though? Let's say I had this question that came up when I was talking to Aaron. He's like, oh, we're God. What do you want to do now? It's funny because when you realize this, and I'm talking about really realizing it, not your ego realizing it, there's less fear. You know what I'm saying? There's less fear. There's more trust. You let the gods consume you to some extent, because if you are what you eat and what you eat becomes you, you let the wheel, like, you know how what's crazy is I'm observing nature, and they say that nature doesn't look like it's so good because you got prey-predator type of insects eating each other and certain animals eating each other. But how do you know that that animal didn't want to be eaten by the fucking predator? It's a form of evolution. If it ate that, the energy gets transferred into that. Now it became an evolved form of what it originally was, right? So you're observing, but the thing is, you're observing the animal wanting to strive and survive. But internally, how do you know that it didn't want to go through this process? All we're observing is the animalistic side of ourselves. So humanity lives in certain type of fear, certain type of paranoia, but why? The inorganic system puts you in that state, doesn't it? And then when you look at these animals, you compartmentalize these things and say they're doing bad things, like a cat killing a mouse in the garden. You say, oh, it raped it, tortured it, and infringed on its will, right? But this cat is just doing cat things. Why would you get mad at the cat? The cat didn't know it did what you compartmentalize as bad. It even bought you the mouse to show you that what it did. It's proud of what it did. But then you humans do what animals do and don't realize you're doing animalistic shit. This is how you are in your animalistic nature. You go out and debate, trying to fucking smash that person, character, assassinate that person. Why do you think they say, man, good shit, bro? Yo, you killed them in that debate. Because you're looking to destroy them in that debate. You're looking to kill their character, kill their credibility. And you feel good about yourself. That's your ego. Right? Because when you can build and learn how to harmonize with others, you'll experience growth. And you don't have to physically destroy each other or spiritually break the person down, right? This can only happen if you're going in a debate where you're doing it, but you're going to have good sportsmanship. It's no different than having a street fight, or you go into an octagon, but you're a professional martial artist, because life is an art, the art of life. Anyway, this camera's going to cut off. Cheers to all of you. I'll make another part, and we'll talk soon.